Not those skulls.
And that's because you were never given the opportunity to compare them against the skulls, correct?
Right, just the photographs.
Okay, and that would be important to do to determine the accuracy, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so what you've created is essentially a representation of what the information you were given as to the injury to the skulls, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware, well, do you have any colleagues that you work with that have ever recreated skulls like this just from photos?
Not of human remains.
Did you have anyone that you could consult with while you were doing this to determine that you were going in the right direction?
Only Miss Dowdy that I...
And that was the student that you mentioned earlier?
The PhD student.
You didn't have your supervisor, you didn't speak to him about it?
No, he doesn't do this type of work. The work that I do is very unique to my position. His position is not do what I do.
What about other individuals at other universities? Did you reach out to any of them?
I did not.
Are you aware of any other individuals that do similar work to you?
Not like this, no.
You ever go to any sort of seminars or training events now which would have pull other people that do similar work to yourself?
Not recently, but I have been to conferences where reconstructions of skulls have been done, but not like this.
When you recreate, whether it's prosthetic or other things, is there usually some sort of peer review process?
Typically with things dealing with the medical industry, with health, yes, there is. Typically the work that I do is for research. Sometimes when I work with the VA creating prosthetics, it is reviewed by the prosthetics department and tested with the patient.
So there's somebody else who's looking over what you've done to determine the accuracy of it and the usefulness of it, correct?
Yeah, they're collaborating with me, I would say. They're not necessarily reviewing my work, but they're collaborating and giving suggestions.
And then at times they may give a suggestion and then you go back and make a modification, correct?
Yes.
And that did not happen in this case, correct?
Not only with Ms. Dowdy that I mentioned before.
And how many times did you consult with her?
I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 times.
And did you take any notes on your conversations with her?
No.
Do you know whether or not she took any notes based on your conversations with her?
I don't believe so.
Did you tell the district attorney's office that you were collaborating with another person about the skulls?
Yes, I asked if that would be okay first.
And they said it was okay?
Yes.
And did they tell you to take notes about your conversation?
No.
Did they ask for her name and contact information?
I believe I gave her name.
Who'd you give that to?
I believe I may have sent it to Sophia Contreras.
Did you ever provide her contact information?
I can't recall. I might have.
Do you know if she was ever interviewed by the Riverside District Attorney's Office?
I don't believe so.
No. As far as you know, she is not?
No.
No further questions? Redirect, Mr. Kurz?
No.
No. All right. Then we'll just have the witness wait in the back, I guess, for now. All right, sir, if you could just wait in the back room. Are there any additional witnesses or evidence that you want to present for this hearing, Mr. Kurz? Mr. Welver, did you have any additional evidence or witnesses that you wanted to present for the hearing?
No.
All right, you'll need to wait outside, sir. Yeah. All right, the witness has left the court. All right, Mr. Kurz.
Yes, thank you, Aaron. I think witness testified to his skill and ability. He obviously has worked in skill for 20 years. He has recreated 3D images of skulls before. This is the first time he's done human remains, but he's testified to the process. And in fact, it's just the process which is the important thing, whether it's a human skull or a dinosaur. It doesn't matter. In terms of taking 2D images and recreating the 3D image is what the process is all about. And in terms of, he was asked to do a representation of the skulls from the images. And of course, it's going to be the forensic pathologist who testifies as to the accuracy of those skulls in terms of the injuries to the deceased.
Has the forensic pathologist examined the skulls yet?
She has. And Dr. Schumann looked at the skulls and she said they were a very accurate representation of the injuries that she saw in photographs. In fact, she had herself outlined the injuries to the skulls. And when she compared her drawings to these skulls, she said they were very accurate.
All right, Mr. Welborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I come back to the Kelly Fry standard that I know we spoke about it earlier, but as I'm listening to this witness and what he's done, I don't think it passed that test. And we know he's really just done this one time. He's put it at a disadvantage because he's given just photos, something he's never done before. He told us that his creation of this, he can never determine accuracy because he was never given the opportunity to review the skulls, which is what he does. He has the human remains. And so we essentially have skulls that are not accurate. He has not told us that this is something that is accepted in the scientific community. I think we can realize that it isn't because he's never testified to it. It's the first time he's ever done it. The pathologist Mr. Kurz was speaking about did not participate in the actual autopsy. She is also reviewing photos. So I don't think that this passes it. I think this individual did the best he could. But again, if he's not even comfortable with the accuracy of it, I don't know that it's exactly what he said, but he can't determine whether they are accurate or not. I don't think it passes that Kelly Fry standard. I'll submit.
Well, wouldn't it go to the weight as opposed to the admissibility? I did have a concern when I heard about the accuracy where he indicated that he had no way to verify that without the human remains. But based on representation that Mr. Kurz made, that the forensic pathologist has reviewed it and says that the representation is accurate, and obviously you're aware of that, it seems to me that there is another individual who is able to verify that what's being used as for demonstrative purposes is not going to mislead the jury to the extent that it's somehow inaccurate. I think that goes to weight as opposed to admissibility. I mean, really all we're talking about here is demonstrative piece of evidence. It's no different than a pathologist drawing a diagram of where injuries are. If the pathologist gets it wrong and the specific injury that's being spoken about is somehow off from what the photographs show or the measurements show, that doesn't exclude the diagram. It would be something to cross-examine, and it would go to weight as opposed to the admissibility of that evidence. So that's one part of it. Second part of it is well, there's, I guess, two other parts. The second part would be foundation. Clearly the man has the ability to be able to recreate from photographs, though this is the first time he's done it without remains of a human skull, but he certainly has the credentials and ability to be able to recreate what it is that he's doing, which again is that demonstrative evidence. So there doesn't appear to be any sort of foundational absence. He's done this for, I think he said, about 20 years. And while this may be the first time he's utilized this process for human remains, he's done the process for other, whether it be animals or whatever it might be, or for other purposes. And I guess there's got to be a first time for everything. But I don't think there's any foundational issues. As to 352, which is the third part, I guess, this is certainly substantially less prejudicial than having the human remains here in court. It's a skull, and it shows various different injuries, but it is substantially less prejudicial than it would be if it were to be done and utilize the true remains. And then the other part of it, and I know the people had put in their motion that they're relying on substantially fewer graphic photographs because of the utilization of these skulls. So there's less prejudice in that regard as well, because photographs that would exemplify what it is that these skulls are showing are not going to be used. Not that they're not going to be used at all, but there'll be less of them used in order to get the point across. So I think that this is merely a 3D replication of what would otherwise be utilized as 2D evidence, and in a less prejudicial form. Now, to the extent that they are or are not accurate, as I mentioned, I did have a concern in that regard, but given the representation made by Mr. Kurd that the forensic pathologist verified that they were accurate in what she saw to the extent of the injuries in the photographs, it sounds to me like, again, this is an issue of weight as opposed to admissibility. So I'll allow the testimony, and I'll certainly allow you to cross-examine about the accuracy or any other issues that you think need to be brought to the attention, including but not limited to the fact this is the first time this gentleman has done it. And to the extent that's an issue, you're certainly free to explore that, but I don't think it precludes the visibility of the evidence. All right, then, is there anything else that we need to discuss? Otherwise, we'll take a brief recess and then bring our jurors in. Is this going to be your first witness today, Mr. Kurtz?
It is, yeah. I'll need about 5 minutes or so.
All right. There's one additional issue
Yes.
with regard to that, and that is collaboration and conversations with the PhD student that was looking at this and he was working with. I'm not aware of this person. I don't know what conversations were there. The district attorney has been made aware of this, according to our witness. I don't know if there were interviews or whether that was tried, but this is something new. The only way we can confirm anybody that looked at this is through this person that we just learned about this morning. I don't think that person is in his PowerPoint, and he didn't prepare a report. But again, the DA's known about this person for certainly a longer period of time. And so I'm concerned about that and whether or not there's an additional witness that gives us an opportunity to impeach him potentially.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes, a report was made by Mr. Kaplan. It was entitled 3D Reconstruction Models of Skull with Cranial Trauma for the Riverside County District Attorney's Office. It was based on 2801 to 2827. It was provided to defense on 12, 13, and 19. We also provided a PowerPoint to defense on the same date. And that report goes into the process, what he did, Mr. Kaplan did, what software he used, what photographs he used, and that's all contained within his report.
Well, I think the issue, or at least the person raised, is the student that he consulted with. Did you, in any form, interview that person, speak to that person?
No, we did not.
So there's no discovery issue in that regard, other than apparently he consulted with someone else while he did this.
I think the discovery issue is they were made aware that he was speaking with somebody about the project, and they did not follow up on interviewing that person or providing us with any information about that person. And that's not in the report, correct? So
No, but
that's the issue.
That's not a discovery violation.
Well, I'm sure that Dr. Kaplan or Mr. Kaplan can provide to you the phone number of that person, and if you want to call them, you can do that before we get started this morning, see if you can reach them to the extent you think it's necessary. It sounds like this was just a sounding board for him to bounce ideas off that person. He's the one that created this, and he's the one with the experience and the expertise. She's a graduate student, I think he said, or PhD student, and so I'm not sure that there would be any contradictory elements of it. I mean, I assume that when he talked to her, he took her advice to do things, or he bounced ideas off her for purposes of creating this. But to the extent you think there's some inconsistency by her saying, no, this is not the way to do it, and he disregarded it and went ahead and did it anyway, and therefore it's not a valid reproduction of the skull. If you want to speak with her, I think you can probably get that information this morning.
Well, I have no idea what is there, and here we are with the jury about to walk in, and we're just learning about this. And in all fairness, the district attorney had this information, and we're dealing with, as the court knows, a capital case. And so the only person that's ever reviewed this, apparently, is this PhD student, which he's also a PhD student. He's got no peer review, and now I don't know if she'll answer. I mean, it doesn't seem like the type of thing that we should be doing right now, especially when they knew about it.
Mr. Gerst, do you want to weigh in any further?
this is Mr. Kaplan's work, his personal view. Experts obviously consult with other people from time to time as a sounding board to get ideas. If they go to a seminar, they'll get information from other experts who meet at seminars. I have no direct experience of this other person. We just dealt with Mr. Kaplan. This is his work. This is his representation.
Well, you can certainly question him as to whether or not there was advice given by this person that he that they had a dispute, so to speak, where the other person said, don't do it this way, and he did it anyways. And to the extent that he denies that, and then you interview this person, I suppose you could make arrangements, if possible, to bring this person in and verify, after you speak with them, if they are inconsistent with what his answer is. In other words, the only thing that would be relevant is if she says to him, don't do it that way, and he says, I'm going to do it this way anyways, and her opinion is by him doing it that way, it's inaccurate. So to the extent he denies that there was any issues between them wherein she proposed him do it a particular way, and he said no, and she disputes that, then she becomes a potential witness. I would agree.
But I would need that information beforehand, Your Honor, because I can guess that if I ask the question, he's going to say, oh, no, she was in agreement.
Right, and so then you can still contact her and find out whether she agrees or disagrees with that. You'll get the contact information from him, and you or your investigator can call her, and to the extent she has an inconsistent view, you'd have to call her as a witness anyways. It wouldn't be him that's the witness, it would be her. So you're only laying the foundation as to him denying that that occurred.
Well, the problem with that, Your Honor, is that if he says that, then I'm bolstering his testimony because now he's got some peer review, where normally, as the court knows, people are interviewed beforehand, so we ask the question we know the answer to as opposed to the opposite of that. And it's really, I'm not suggesting these gentlemen knew about him before, but someone in their office did, because he provided that. In fact, he asked permission to be able to show it to somebody else. So that was right in the beginning.
Well, why don't you get the contact information and see if you can get hold of this person today, right now? We'll get the answer. you want to ask him that question now? We'll bring him back to the stand and ask whether there was an occasion where that occurred and get him on the record saying one way or another. That way it's not in front of the jury. So you'll have it here, and then you...
I'll just deal with it informally.
Okay. All right, then why don't you do that, and we'll say 10:15. That's 15 minutes. Members of the jury or alternates are present. Mr. Welborn, what did you discover?
I spoke to Mr. Kaplan in the room in the back, and he provided me with the full name, phone number, and email, which I sent on to my investigator. She immediately called. The phone number was disconnected. She emailed, and the email that he gave me was also not accurate and was kicked back to her. So she's doing her own independent search to try to locate her.
All right. Did you informally ask him about any disputes between he and this other person?
I did not. I didn't inform him why I was asking him, other than it was a name that he had given, and he gave me the information. And I saw him look at his phone, and under contact, give me the information. That's where I copied it.
All right. So what would you propose to do?
Are there other witnesses that could be called now?
Do you have other witnesses this morning, Mr. Pierce?
Yes, Detective Godfrey probably is here. We just called her.
All right. Why don't we do that? We'll hold off with Mr. Kaplan until we at least have the investigator get back to Mr. Welborn.
Well, it'll be this afternoon, so. Okay.
Just have him come back at 1:30.
Okay. So we just take Godfrey's out there.
All right. Are you going to be okay to go straight through?
Okay, yeah, Detective Godfrey is here.
27.
All right. Then why don't we take his testimony and then her testimony.
And we're going to be playing the statement of the defendant. So I'll have some questions beforehand, and then we can go into
Okay.
the statement.
All right. And just before we play the statement, I assume all the editing's been done and counsel listened to the tape and it's to both sides' satisfaction?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Did you want us to do that?
I have to ask that now. Can you put our three victims away?
Alas. Oh, no.
Gloves.
Gloves.
Do I need to get a test now that I touched the glove that was on your hand?
Just in terms of the time.
Do you think he gets a fine or a suspension?
I think he's going to get both.
Dodgers too?
All right, we'll go back on the record in the case People versus Brandon Martin, RAF 1506112. Record should reflect Mr. Martin is present with both counsel. The people are present. All members of our jury and alternates are present. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
First off, I apologize for the delay. We had some matters we had to take out of your presence this morning, but we are ready to proceed. So next witness.
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor. The people called Detective Godfrey. Somebody step out.
Yes.
You solemnly state that the evidence you show in the matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I do.
Okay, thank you.
Please state, spell your first and your last name for the record.
First of Gail, Gail. Last of Gottfried, Gottfried.
Thank you. You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Detective.
Good morning.
Who do you work for?
I work for the City of Corona Police Department.
And how long have you worked for the City of Corona Police Department?
24 years.
What's your current assignment with the department?
I work robbery homicide.
And how long have you been working robbery homicide?
Just a couple of years.
Okay. Were you working homicide back in 2015?
Yes, I was.
Okay. What other assignments have you worked as well as robbery homicide?
I worked fraud and embezzlement, domestic violence, sex crimes and child abuse, domestic violence, I think I already said, and VNIG, vice narcotics, intelligence.
So I imagine over the 24 years you've seen many things.
Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you about something that happened in September the 17th, 2015. Were you assigned as a homicide investigator that day?
Yes, I was.
And was your assignment to be the lead investigating agent for the Winthrop, 127 Winthrop crime scene?
Yes.
Now, as a lead agent, what does that mean?
It means that you pretty much delegate duties out to people because conducting a homicide, there's a lot of elements to it, and you can't do everything on your own.
For instance, we've already heard from Sergeant Brad Voorhees. He was assigned to do the crime scene.
Correct.
Okay. So, as the team leaders, you would be in charge of delegating each task to each officer.
That's correct.
Okay. And as the lead investigating officer, would you go to the scene as well?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Now let me show you 3 photographs, if I may. Let me show you what's been marked as 189 investigation. And you see that CDL there?
Yes.
And the CDL of Mr. Ricky Anderson?
Yes, it is.
Okay. When you went to the scene, was Mr. Anderson at the scene?
No, he was not.
Okay. Why was that?
He was transported to the hospital.
Okay. Let me show you what's being marked as 105 for identification. Show you 105 for identification. And I believe there's a stipulation by the defense and the people that this is a photograph of Mr. Ricky Anderson at the hospital.
And stipulate.
That is correct.
And Mr. Ricky Anderson was taken to the hospital.
Yes, he was.
Did you have a department member at the hospital while he was there?
Yes.
Okay. And were you given updates on Mr. Anderson's health over the next few days?
Yes, I was.
Did you become aware at some point that Mr. Anderson died of his injuries?
Yes, I was.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's 2 for identification. You see People's 2 there?
Yes.
Have you reviewed this document before?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And does it appear to be the death certificate issued by the County of Riverside for Mr. Ricky Anderson?
Yes.
Okay. And does this death certificate give you the date of death for Mr. Anderson?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And what's that date?
9/19 of 2015.
Okay. And that would be 2 days after the incident was reported to the Corona Police Department on 9/17.
Correct.
And in this death certificate, the cause of death was given as blunt force injuries.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Anderson had been transported to the scene. Were the bodies of Mr. Swanson and Mr. Michael Martin at the scene?
Yes, they were.
Okay. I'm going to show you People's 100 for identification. Do you see that photograph there?
Yes.
And does that appear to be the body of Mr. Barry Swanson at the scene at Winthrop?
Yes, it is.
And when you went to the scene, were you able to see Mr. Barry Swanson at the scene?
Yes.
Okay. Show you what's been marked as People's 3 for identification. Have you reviewed that document before?
Yes.
And does that appear to be the death certificate issued by the County of Riverside for Mr. Barry Swanson?
Yes.
Okay. And does that show his date of death as 9/17/2015?
Correct.
And with respect to the cause of death for Mr. Swanson, it was blunt force injuries
Correct.
to the head.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the one remaining body was that of Mr. Michael Martin. I'm just going to show you 152 for identification. You see that photograph there?
Yes.
And does that appear to be the body of Mr. Michael Martin when you went to the scene at Winthrop on 9/17?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as 1 for identification. And do you see that document in front of you?
Yes.
Appears to be the death certificate issued by the County of Riverside for Mr. Michael Martin.
Yes.
And on that, that shows the date of death for Mr. Michael Martin to be 9/17/2015.
Correct.
And again, his cause of death was blunt force injuries to the head.
Correct.
Thank you. Now, when you were beginning the investigation on the evening of 9/17/2015, were you aware of the fact that Mr. Barry Swanson's raptor was missing from the home at Winthrop?
Yes, I was.
Did your department put out what's known as a bolo for that raptor?
Yes.
Okay. And a bolo being be on the lookout for?
Correct.
Okay. So as the investigation began to come underway, one of the things important to you was finding the raptor.
Correct.
Okay. At that time of the investigation, was there a suspect that you were looking for as well?
Yes.
And who was that?
Willie Martin.
So the beginning of the investigation, we're looking for 2 things, the raptor and Brandon Martin.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as 241 for identification. And these are items of interest that we've discovered throughout the trial. As the investigating officer in the case, you would be aware of all the incidences and these locations?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of the bus stop here on 500 Grand, are you familiar with that area?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Are you familiar with the Corona geographic area?
24 years, yes.
Right. Now, the bus stop on Grand, and then we have the scene of the crime 1027 Winthrop. You see that there?
Yes.
Are you aware of the distance between the bus stop and Winthrop?
Yes.
What's the distance?
And depending upon which route you'd go, it's either 2.7 miles or 3.
2.7 or 3 miles?
Correct.
Depending on what road or
Which
what
route
you take?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be walkable within a 51-minute time?
Yeah, you could surely do it under an hour.
Okay. Now, the arrest that was made of Mr. Brandon Martin was at 8:58 Derby. Do you see that there?
I'm sorry, say it again?
The arrest of Mr. Brandon Martin was made at 8:58 Derby.
Correct.
Okay. On looking at the map there, that location is consistent with that.
Yes.
And then, did you receive some information during the course of the investigation that Brandon Martin went to Carl's Jr.?
Yes, I did.
And that Carl's Jr. that was referred to, is that the location just there by Mountain Gate Park?
Yes.
And Mountain Gate Park is also indicated there with the red circle. That is consistent with your knowledge of the area?
Yes.
And you were aware also, after a couple of months after these murders, Mr. Swanson's wallet was found by a homeowner?
Yes, in his backyard.
And that person lived on Mountain Gate?
Mountain Gate, yes.
And then you see the red dot indicating where Mr. Swanson's wallet was found?
Yes.
And then looking at Santiago High School, that's the correct location for Santiago High School?
Yes, it is.
And again, during the course of the investigation, you received information that the Raptor and Mr. Martin was seen at the Arco gas station on Compton by the 15?
Yes.
And is that Arco gas station the correct location?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Now, you're aware that on the 18th of September 2015, that Brandon Martin was seen driving the Raptor that belonged to Mr. Swanson?
Yes.
And that subsequently he was taken into custody by members of the Corona Police Department?
Correct.
After that arrest, were you able to conduct an interview with him?
No, I was not.
And why was that?
Because he had to be transported to the hospital for his injuries.
Okay. And once he was released from the hospital, he was booked into the Riverside County Jail?
Correct.
And as an investigator investigating these serious crimes, is one of the things you would like to do is interview the suspect?
Yes, I would.
And in terms of interviewing suspects, how many suspects do you think you've interviewed over the 24-year period as an investigator?
Hundreds.
Hundreds? Now, as a seasoned homicide investigator, you receive training in how to conduct a suspect interview?
Yes.
And what kind of training is involved in that?
Well, there's interviews and styles and techniques that you can use in order to basically get somebody to tell their story, and oftentimes that's a little difficult just because nobody wants to admit that they did something wrong, and there's a lot of shame and discomfort with it. So we try to develop a rapport with them to get them to basically tell you something that they don't want to tell you.
Okay. And what are some of the ways you try to develop that rapport?
Just try to find some type of commonality with them. Also, so there's sometimes we use trickery. You try to let them know that they're not a bad person. It's just what they did may be considered bad. You just try to make them feel as comfortable as possible and let them feel safe so they're able to converse with you.
And when you're doing that, I mean, and it depends on from one suspect to another suspect.
Correct.
Sometimes you might need to go soft, sometimes you may need to go hard.
Right.
But these are, when you're doing these interviews, these are not your personal expressions of how you view the case.
No.
It's your way to try and make a suspect comfortable and trusting you so you can get the story out as to what happened.
Correct.
Now, I think before you said you worked sexual assault cases and child molestation cases.
Yes,
And when you've interviewed suspects in those serious cases, would you, for instance, tell somebody who was a child molester that you're not a bad person in order to develop rapport?
yes, and that it's okay.
And then it's okay to tell the story because of maybe issues of shame or something?
Correct.
Okay. And these are techniques that you've been trained in, and these are techniques that you've employed over your career as an investigator?
Yes,
Now let's talk about, you conducted an interview with the defendant, Brandon Martin.
yes,
And in fact, do you see Brandon Martin in the courtroom today?
yes, I do.
Okay, would you point him out to the court and the jury, please?
He's sitting next to counsel to my left in a blue shirt and a white face mask.
Thank you.
Indicating Mr. Martin for the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. And that interview, when you conduct an interview of a suspect who hasn't been transported to the hospital, just in a regular case, where would you do that interview normally?
In an interview room?
At the police station?
Yes,
And would that interview be audio recorded
yes, it would.
and video recorded?
Yes,
Okay. Now, in this case, we weren't able to take him to the station and interview him because he was at Robert Presley Jail.
correct.
Okay. And that interview that took place, was that on September the 22nd, 2017?
Yes,
2015?
2015.
Now, what arrangements were provided to you by the Riverside County Sheriff's Office?
The arrangement was as they put us in where the attorneys meet with their clients. So it was a partition, and there was a phone and a speaker box to where we would communicate with one another.
Okay. And again, the jail facility here in Riverside is run by Riverside County Sheriffs.
Correct.
And Corona Police Department is a separate entity from the sheriffs.
That is correct.
So from Corona's point of view, you are stepping onto their patch.
Yes,
Okay. And so you are provided the attorney booth as a means to conduct the interview.
yes, I was.
Was that an ideal situation for you?
No, it was not.
You would have preferred to have been back at the Corona Police Department in an interview room?
Right, or in any room, you know, whether it be monitored by a deputy or inside the room or outside the room.
But given the circumstances, you were able to complete an interview?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And at the beginning of that interview, did you provide Mr. Martin with his Miranda rights?
Yes, I did.
You provided them to him orally,
Yes, I did.
speaking, and did he also sign an agreement, a written agreement, saying he understood his rights and would talk to you?
Yes, he did.
And in terms of his overall demeanor, when you met with him on the morning of the 22nd of September 2015, can you describe that to us?
His demeanor was, he was eager that I was there. He wanted to speak with me. And the only thing that I would say, the conversation was fluid, and he seemed a little bit tired, but other than that, he seemed responsive.
When you say responsive, he responded in an accurate way to your questions.
Correct. The content was there.
Okay. And so I think a moment ago you said the conversation was fluid in terms of you would ask him a question, he would answer, and then you would follow up with another question, and he would answer.
Correct.
And the replies seemed to be oriented to the question.
Yes.
And you said he seemed a bit tired.
Yes.
Did he tell you that he was taking some pain medication for injury to his shoulder?
Yes.
And that interview you had with him was recorded?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And
Audio recorded.
audio recorded. And again, you mentioned this was in the attorney client booth.
Correct.
So just so people have an understanding, if you go to the Riverside County Jail as an attorney to meet with a client, you're shown to a room that has plexiglass down the middle of the room, and seats on either side of the plexiglass.
And plexiglass in front.
Plexiglass in front. And so there's no tangible interaction between the client and the attorney.
Correct.
And the communication is through the telephonic communication device that they have there.
Yes.
And it can be frustrating talking through that telephone.
Extremely frustrating.
And I think once or twice we'll see your frustration in the interview. I have a recording of that interview that I'd like to play in a moment, Your Honor. And we have transcripts. Before I do that, I'd like to read one more stipulation.
All right, so once again, ladies and gentlemen, a stipulation is an agreement between the parties of the facts. You don't need to deliberate on the facts. You can assume that these facts are true and utilize that with anything else that you may find to be the facts. All right, go ahead, Mr. Kurz.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people of the state of California versus Brandon Martin. Stipulation. Phone calls by Ricky Anderson. It is hereby stipulated by Deputy District Attorney Michael Kurz and Defense Counsel Christian Jensen and Edward Wellborn for the purposes of this jury trial and any motions arising from it that, 1, the phone records of Ricky Anderson detail he made a phone call on September the 17th, 2015 at 4 p.m. The phone call was to his dentist, Dr. Chu. Second, the phone records of Ricky Anderson detail he made a phone call on September the 17th, 2015 at 4:10 p.m. The phone call was to his son, Michael Anderson. That stipulation was agreed upon by myself, Chris Jensen for Mr. Brandon Martin, and Ed Wellborn for Mr. Brandon Martin on February the 7th, 2020.
Defense stipulate to those facts.
Yes.
All right.
At this time, the people would like to play the audio tape, which is 160. Well, hold on. Let me just check on the video number.
All right, and while you're doing that, ladies and gentlemen, and the transcripts are being passed out, remember the admonition I gave you previously. The tape is the evidence, not the transcript. The tape is the evidence. To the extent that the transcript is there, it's merely as an aid to help you. If you find discrepancies in the transcript from whatever it was that was transcribed, you're free to make note of that on the transcript. But remember, it is the tape that is the evidence. Also, because of the fact that the court reporter cannot go back and ask the witness what was said, if there's something missed, the lawyers will stipulate that the court reporter need not transcribe this portion of the trial. And so the only evidence of this portion of the trial will indeed be the tape. And so if you wish to listen to this portion of the trial, you'll have to listen to the tape in deliberations. Both sides stipulate that the court reporter may be relieved of her duties under the code from transcribing this portion of the trial.
Yes. The exhibit number is 161 for the audio recording, 161A.
Is the transcript?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll need one as well, Deputy, please. Thank you. All right, does everyone have a copy? Thank you. All right, then you may proceed, Mr. Kurz.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Hi, Brendan. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. Can you pick up the phone? No?
He's going to have to talk
You're going to have to speak up because I can't hear you, okay? Okay, perfect. I can hear you now. I'm Gail. I'm a detective with the Florida Police Department, okay? And I'm here and I wanted to talk to you about what happened.
Yeah, I need to talk to you.
You want to talk to me? Okay, well, before I can talk to you, I have to read you something. It's just a formality, okay?
Okay.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say may be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have a present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questions you wish. Do you understand each of these rights I explained to you?
Yes.
Okay, having these rights in mind, do you wish to speak with me? Okay, can you speak up a little bit? Yes. I know that you have some medical issues, right? And I was wondering if you could sign a release, a waiver, so I can get those medical records. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, since you can't just come back and ask them how we're gonna have these.
That's fine. We'll have you sign those afterwards, okay? Okay. So what happened that day? Excuse me? You know what, let's see if we can get him unhandcuffed, because I'm not sure if it's gonna pick it up. What he's saying, okay?
Just ask them to speak up, can you speak up a little bit so we can hear you? Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Speak up that loud, because I can't hear you if you don't. Make sense?
Phone.
What's that?
Phone.
Yeah, it would be nice if you can use the phone if you,
Alright.
can,
What day are you talking about?
okay, perfect. As long as you can lean in like that, that'd be great. Okay, the data I'm talking about is from, Thursday.
I don't remember what day that was, whether it was the day I went home and tried to gather my things and saw what happened and left,
Okay?
or the day the cops pulled me over for, the day of police.
Okay, well, let's talk about the day that you left, ETS.
Day that I left,
Yep.
I got on the bus and needed some things to go home. And when I got home, I had seen what I'd seen, freaked out, and just had a party with it, I guess. And I had 2 keys, went out on my own, figured, hey, you know, I'm not the right person to be here at this time.
Right.
And my mom comes home a couple hours after that. So I took keys and left because I didn't want anything to do with that at all.
Okay.
I spent the night in the car.
You spent the night in the car? Okay. If you can get closer to the phone, that'd be great. So, when you took the keys, what car did you take?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Did you recognize that vehicle to be anybody's, or
No.
where were the keys at?
Anybody.
I'm sorry, what?
I didn't give them to anybody.
Okay. Where were the keys at when you took the car?
In their pocket.
In where?
In their pocket.
In whose pocket? In whose pocket?
My uncle and the guy that they were working with.
Okay. So what guy was, I don't understand, who was all there at the house when you got home?
I have no idea.
Okay. So how many people were there at the house when you got home?
3 dead, pretty much.
3 dead? Okay. Well, let's start from the very beginning, okay? Just listen for a second. You were over at ETS. Why were you there?
My mom wanted me to go because one day I got food and she wanted me to clean my room and I explained to her 5 minutes and whatnot. And the volume got loud and then we had touched base pretty much like grabbing face. It wasn't that serious, no punches or anything like that. But I was just hungry. She didn't want me to do that anymore, so that's the reason why she called the cops. Cops came and got me.
All right, let me see if I understand what you're saying. What do you mean grabbing face? What are you talking about?
But cheeks, look like you did.
So were you guys pinching each other's cheeks or what? What were you doing? I don't understand.
I was trying to get her out of the room and she wouldn't let me close my door. But all she wanted me to do was clean my room, and I was fine with that.
Right.
I wanted to eat, and then clean it up after because it wasn't that big of a mess.
Okay. So what happened? So you guys both put each hands on each other or what?
I wouldn't call it that. I mean, she's kind of independent woman. She shouldn't be treated like that.
Like treating you like what? And telling you what to do or what are you talking about?
Like, getting grabbed at all.
So she was grabbing your cheeks?
Yes.
Like in, like,
I didn't like that.
what's that?
I didn't like that at all.
Okay, but why was she grabbing your cheeks?
Because we were yelling before that.
Right?
And she was like, getting yelled at you.
Okay, so she was trying to get you to stop, is that it?
Like, yeah, I was just trying to get into my room.
Okay, and then what did you do when she grabbed your cheeks?
Yelling and trying to get me to go places.
Like what places?
To a family, guidance counselor that I've been going to, like, that was like for 4 times.
Like 4 times you've been to a guidance counselor?
At all.
I'm sorry, can you get closer so I can hear you? I can't hear you. Can you get a little bit closer, because I can't hear you?
Yeah, I've been there like 4 times.
Okay.
Like, for me to remind me at all, let me go or anything.
Well, why have you been seeing this counselor?
I really don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
But my mom said, in order to stay there, you have to see a counselor.
And do you not want to, I'm sorry, say again?
Do other stuff.
Like what?
She has it all written down, like take medications, don't hurt.
So she just had some rules at the house if you were to stay there. Okay, well, what kind of medications was she talking about?
For my anger,
For your anger? What's the name of the medications that you're taking?
I don't know what to do.
Okay, are they prescribed to you by a doctor, or
Yeah.
who's your doctor?
Dr. Claus, Dr. Claus.
Dr. Valcoon? And where's he at? She?
I can't think of it right now.
That's okay, don't worry about it. Do you know where she's out of? Is she out of what city?
No.
Do you know the name of did you go to a hospital for that, or something different?
You just have an office with a bunch of other offices
Okay.
next to each other.
I'll see if I can cuss out. Yeah, because I don't know.
Can we use cuss off? Yeah. Thank you.
We're gonna have them take your cuffs off, okay, Brandon? Why did it do that before? I don't know.
I think it was like this.
Okay.
I should ask her.
All right. Here's the one. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, I can't hear you either. Can you hear me now? Okay, can you speak up? All right, good. I'm wondering, is that gonna come through here?
I thought it did.
Is this even working? You know what, that's not possibly go into a room where I can sit and talk to him.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
And it's the thing doesn't work, the phone? Is there a particular way I get it to work?
It's not very loud. Ask him, is it supposed to come out of this speaker right here?
Is it supposed to come out of the speaker?
Brandon, talk when you hear it. You can hear me? It's just so low. I mean, you can make that speaking out.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Just tell them to speak up.
I just really need you to speak up because it's very low on this side. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay. So on Tuesday, obviously the police were called, correct? You have to answer, hon. Okay. I'm gonna, all right. So what happened that day?
I had just woken up pretty much and asked, there's people at my house, and I had asked
doing some type of drugs that were allowing you to sleep like that? No? Okay, so, and let's just, and I'm gonna, be frank with you, I don't care, but I'm just wondering, have you ever taken, any type of, narcotic or controlled substance?
I've tried, I think, 4 different types of drugs twice, and marijuana on occasion.
Okay. Okay. So, what kind of drugs have you experimented with in the past?
Marijuana, cocaine, LSD, and mushrooms.
Okay. And when was the last, I'm sorry, what?
Molly.
And what? Molly?
Yeah.
Okay. When was the last time that you used any of those drugs?
Yeah, a month and a half ago.
About a month and a half ago? And what about marijuana?
That was
A month, that's a month and a half ago? Okay. Any other over-the-counter medication that you've been taking within the last week? Other than when you came to the hospital? Other than when you came to the hospital? Excedrin? Okay, that's it? Okay. What about alcohol?
The last time I had alcohol was, a week ago. I had half a beer. And before that, I was finishing on a cake, so that's a week.
Okay. Okay. So, on Tuesday, you said you got up either at 5 or 6 in the evening, and then what happened? Because was your brother there at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Did something happen? Did you guys have an argument or something happen?
He was there with his girlfriend, and, we didn't talk at all.
Where did they want to take you? Do you know?
Down the street,
To where?
the family, guidance counselor.
Okay. Was it at like a house or was it a place of business? Like a hospital? So like, do you know the name of the hospital?
No.
No? Have you been to this place before?
Yeah.
Okay. How many times?
4.
4? And what do they do when you get there?
We just sit down and talk.
Is it just one-on-one or is it group or
My
what?
mom showed up twice at the end, or once at the end, and once at the beginning.
What do you guys talk about? Don't talk about anything?
Yeah.
Well, you just don't sit there, right?
Yeah, but he asked me questions, and I'm kind of blank about the whole thing. And the stuff we already went over the first time.
Right.
It kind of doesn't appeal to me to go to that anymore.
Well, then tell me about your relationship with your mom. How would you say your relationship is? Perfect? Okay. So, can you give me one thing that you like about your mom?
One thing.
She gives you stuff? Okay. Well, what's one thing that you don't like about your mom?
I can't find it. I just think sometimes she's wrong, I guess.
Okay, like how? Give me an example.
But she raises her volume. She doesn't like to be told that she's wrong. But you can see it,
Right.
like, always.
Okay. Well, tell me about your relationship with your dad. How would you describe it?
We don't really talk much.
You don't really talk much? Why?
That's something that I'll regret. And I think it's his knowledge that he has, for his life. He did a lot of great things for me, and I'm always, respectful of that.
Right. Are you okay? What's going on? All right, I can see that you're getting upset, you're crying. What's happening? Okay. Do you have problems with any of your family members? No? Okay. When you were at ETS, do you remember what time they released you there? About 9 o'clock in the morning? Okay. Where did you go after they released you? I'm sorry, what? You went straight to the bus stop? I'm sorry, speak up. Okay, where are you planning on going? Okay. But you said that you were going there to pick up a few things. What were you going there to pick up? Okay. The cigarettes in your clothes? When you got there, how did you get into the residence? The door was unlocked? Which door? The front door was unlocked? Okay. So when you went into the residence, what did you see? Okay, so when you came in, you said that you saw your uncle on the ground? Okay, and what's your uncle's name? Rick? And can you describe, what you saw there? Just a murder? Is that what you said? I can't hear you, hon. You know what, flip the phone even up. Maybe that'll also help. There you go. You just saw a murder scene? Okay. Then what, you said that there was another guy? Where was that person at? He was on the floor next to the pantry. Do you know who that was? No? And then you said you got a Dr. Pepper? Okay, and then what? Where was your dad's body at? In the garage? Okay. Was there anybody else there at the house? Does anybody else live there at the house? Does anybody else live there at the house? Yeah, who lives at the house? Okay, so just your mom and your dad? And nobody else? Do you live there? You don't live there? Where do you live? Okay. So if you don't live there, then you said that you had items there, correct? Okay. Did you have a key to the house? No? Is it normal for the front door to be open? Yeah, they just leave it unlocked? Okay. Did you check to see if anybody was still alive? No? So, when you got the Dr. Pepper, then what did you start to think?
Well, I needed to get out of there before I got the Dr. Pepper, and I needed to drink. So I stayed upstairs, packing my stuff, because I wasn't going to be going home.
You weren't going to be the one to call?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
I could see something like that. I knew my mom would be home.
How did you know that your mom was going to be home in a couple hours?
Well, the third day, you know, she would be home around 7 or 8.
Okay. So what time was it when you got there? What time was it when you got there to the house? Okay, so you took the bus, right? Did you go anywhere else? Okay, so did you get a bus pass from somewhere?
One place I stayed.
Huh?
One place I stayed at.
What one place?
Where the cops took me.
The ETS?
Yeah.
They gave you a bus pass? Okay, and then so where's the, I don't even know where the bus stop is, so explain to me how you got to the bus stop.
I walk there, and go to 6th Street, and walk up, wow.
Okay, so you took the bus, you went to the Tyler Mall? Okay, and then you took the bus all the way down to 6th Street, and then from 6th Street, you walked to your house? Did you go Buena Vista or Lincoln? Buena Vista? Okay, and then from Buena Vista, do you know what street you took there? No? Okay. But somehow you made it to your house. Did you notice any vehicles that were outside when you got there that you didn't recognize? Okay. So, why didn't you call the police when you saw that? You were too scared? What were you scared about? I can't hear you. What?
I wanted to leave it at that.
You wanted to leave it at that?
Yeah, I wanted to go,
But did you check if they were breathing? Okay, so you really don't know for sure. You saw the puddle of blood where? Where did you see the puddle of blood? Okay. Did you see what could have caused that? I'm sorry, what? Did you see what could have caused those injuries? No? But you said that they had head injuries?
Yeah.
All of them?
All 3 of them.
Okay. So I understand that you didn't want to call the police, but did you call like any other family members and let them know what you saw? No? So what did you end up doing?
I stayed the night in the truck.
Okay. Where were the keys at? Where were the keys at?
In pockets.
In whose pocket?
Mom's pockets, another guy's pocket.
Was there more than one key?
Yeah.
How many keys were there?
4.
And what were the keys to? What were the keys to? I'm sorry, what? That you needed a place to go? I don't understand what you're saying. You said there were keys, right? What do the keys belong to? Right, so you went through their pockets and got keys, is that what you're saying? Okay. But the keys that you got, what did they go to? Did they go to a car, to a house, what? Do you know? A car? Okay, so were there more than one keys that you got, or was it just one set of keys?
There was 4 cars.
Okay. So you went through their pockets, like their front pockets, or was it? Okay, and then you found the keys. So you just wanted basically to get out of there, so you got access to the, I'm sorry, what? Okay, what did you end up eating? What did you end up eating? Carl's Jr.? So was there Carl's Jr. there at the house? Was there Carl's Jr. there at the house? No? So you mean you got in the car and you went and picked up Carl's Jr.? Okay. What Carl's Jr. did you go to? Do you remember? Is it off of Magnolia? By Albertsons? Foothill? Oh, you got your dog too? Before you left the house, other than the keys, what else did you take?
I packed the cigarettes. Had a knife on them.
The guy had a knife on him? I can't hear you, honey. You need to speak up seriously.
I had a knife on them, so that's all. A lighter.
His cell phone or your cell phone? His cell phone or your cell phone?
There was 3 cell phones that
The 3 cell phones that you took? So from all 3 of them? What did you do with the cell phones? Where did you throw them out at?
at a gas station.
What gas station? On California?
Yeah,
The Arco one?
76.
76? Where'd you throw them? Did you throw them in like the dumpster or where?
No, right about the phone.
Right by the pump, like in the trash can? Okay. What else did you take? Did you throw anything else away? Did you throw anything else away?
I got rid of, the guy that I didn't know his wallet, was on the ground. I got rid of his wallet.
Where'd you get rid of his wallet at?
Where's I see the drug?
Where'd you stay at?
There,
I'm sorry,
in
what?
the neighborhood.
You stayed in a neighborhood? Do you remember what neighborhood? Okay. Did you I don't know how you got rid of it.
I just threw it over a wall. I didn't want it on me. I realized I was stupid.
Okay. How come you didn't want it on you?
Because I realized they would have used like an iPhone now. They would have came back to me. And I was in trouble.
So the reason why you didn't want the phones is because they would have used an iPhone app and would have came back to your location? Okay. What about the wallet? Why did you ditch the wallet? I'm sorry, you what? It was declined, so you tried to use it? Where did you try to use it at? At the 76? Or where? Are you sure? Okay, so two Arcos and 276, was it a gas card or was it a credit card or? It was a credit card? What kind of credit card was it? A Visa? What was the other card? That was the only card? Okay. Do you remember where those were at? I mean, I know the one on California, but was it also the Arco over there off of by the freeway?
No, the Arco Arnold.
Okay. By the freeway? Okay. Was there another 76? By the freeway also? Do you remember what street that was on? Okay, so was there anything else that you had that you got rid of? No? Okay. So you don't remember what neighborhood you were sleeping in the truck at? You can't remember? That's okay. So what time would you say that you got up in the morning? Because at some point you woke up, right? Because you went to sleep in the truck.
It was 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock in the morning? And where did you go from there? I'm sorry, where? Why?
Well, I was going to see if I could get a drug. I saw the police there. I didn't want to go back again.
Okay, so you were going to end up going back to get the other truck? I'm sorry, can't hear you.
Yeah, that's why I went back.
Okay, whose truck were you going to get? Whose truck? Rick's, your uncle? Was there no gas in the truck that you took? Okay. So that's you were headed on your way back when obviously the officer saw you? over to the house over on, what's the address that your parents live at? What's the address that your parents live at? 1027 Winthrop? Okay. So you were heading back there? Okay. And that's when the officer saw you?
I was there a few times, a few times, and I got some drinks.
Like you went inside to get drinks? What do you mean you got a few drinks? I don't understand.
Drink machines, I was on.
Okay.
And I was driving back to my sleeping area, and that's when the cop pulled me over.
Okay.
For no reason.
What's that? Pulled you over for what?
No reason.
For no reason? Okay. Tell me about all that.
Well, I decided to go ahead at the last second, shoot a turning lane. And I made a quick right, and she had followed me after that. And then I pulled over, she pulled her guns out, told me, well, I started to degrade police. Because I didn't want anything to do that, I was scared.
You started to evade police because you were scared for your life? Why?
Because she called another cop, and another cop came, they both had guns out.
So I don't understand why you were scared. It's the police. Why would you be scared?
And
It was the police. Why would you be scared?
then,
Because what?
they pulled over for no reason.
Okay. But it's still the police. Like, you don't know if something was going on and they were trying to check, right? Because you have a driver's license, right? Okay, so you know what you're supposed to do when you get pulled over, correct? Okay. And what is that? Pull over, right? So at some point you decided not to comply and you decided to continue on, correct? Okay, do you remember where you were at when that happened? What's your sleeping area? You don't even know the street name, or where is it by? Where is it by? It's by your other uncle's house? Do you know where that's at? 3 streets? Okay. So what happened? Yeah.
They wanted to put my car a few times, and I got out and ran, tried to get away from them,
Okay.
and tried hiding out, and they found me. And I tried to go, got off the roof, and my life, that didn't work.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you, okay, just so I can make sure I'm hearing you, because I still need you to speak up. You ended up, they clipped the car a couple times, and then you took off running, and then you were trying to get away, and you said that you were trying to hide, where did you try to hide at?
Backyard.
In the backyard? Okay. And then, where did you go from the backyard?
I jumped off their house.
So did you go inside of the house that was unlocked? Okay, so you went inside, and then what did you decide to do at that point?
I decided to end my life or
Try to end your life, is that what you said? You said you were going to try to end your life, is that what you said?
I opened up a window going out.
Okay. Why did you want to do that?
Because I don't like jail and I don't like police.
Okay. So, I don't understand, I mean, I understand not liking the police, but why would you want to kill yourself?
I'm going to jail. I'm scared.
Okay, have you ever tried to commit suicide before? No? Okay. Let's talk about when you landed, alright, what happened then?
They had some real, they took a dog on me,
do anything else with the dog? Okay, did you ever hear the dog make any sounds? No? Okay. All right, so let's talk about, you know, when you came home that day and you saw what you saw. All right? Who do you think did that? You have no idea? Do you know of anybody that would harm your family? And so, did you notice anything new about the house? The door handles were new? I can't hear you. You figured what? Brandon, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Speak up.
I noticed what he was wearing, and his teeth is shown, like, what he does.
What was it that it showed that he does?
Like, I saw the door, so I kind of figured that.
You kind of figured what when you saw the door?
That he was doing stuff in the door.
Like what?
Fixing door locks.
Like fixing the door locks? Why, was there something wrong with the door locks?
I don't know.
Okay, but they were different?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you notice? You said there was something on his shirt that you noticed?
It was one of those business shirts.
Like what kind of, like what do you mean?
It wasn't my uncle or my dad, so I had to pick him.
Okay, but it was a business shirt. Like how? Like describe the shirt to me. I'm sorry, what?
Okay.
It was tucked in the shirt?
Yeah, I think it was a collar too.
Or what?
I think it was a collar too.
There was a collar too? Okay. And was there any, like, writing on the shirt? You can't remember? So other than the door locks, did you notice anything else different about the house?
No.
No? Okay. Well, here's the thing, Brandon, all right? It's my understanding that you had a conversation with your uncle, okay? All right, and this is where I really need you to be honest, okay? And I know that you didn't want to go to therapy, okay? I know that your uncle wanted you to partake in some 6-month program, and you were asked to do that. And if you didn't want to do that, then you needed to pack your stuff and leave. Okay, so basically your uncle gave you an ultimatum. Hold on. It's my understanding that your uncle gave you an ultimatum. Okay? We're aware of this conversation took place. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Okay. You don't think he would say that? Okay. Was there some type of salvation program that they wanted you to do for 6 months that was brought up? No? Okay. Well, here's the thing. You ended up showing up at the house, and one of your cousins was called, and they said that you were there at the house. Okay? So at this point, everybody there is alive. All right? So I understand that you're a little bit at differences with. I'm sorry, you said you saw Rick?
I saw Rick when I was outside.
You saw him when he was outside? Or you were outside?
That must have been after that.
Okay, so tell me about when you saw Rick at what point? When you got there from taking the bus or something different? It was after you took the bus? So when you got there, where did you see Rick at? At your house? Where in your house?
The first time he came and saw me, I was outside.
Okay, so when you got there at the house, where did you see Rick originally?
On the ground.
Okay, but you just said right now you just spoke with him, that you saw Rick.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So when you got there, and it's okay, I mean, he was alive the first time?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about that. So when you got home from ETS, and you took the bus, when you got there, where was Rick at? saw you where, hon? Where were you? In the front yard? I'm sorry, where? The side of the yard, so you guys were in the backyard?
Yeah.
Okay, so you both were in the backyard and then what?
Yeah. I smoked my cigarette, he was on the phone. Okay. I went back into the front yard, lay down, and then I went back inside to the front door.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop you. So you went to the side of the house, and he was in the backyard, and he was on the phone. I'm sorry, what? If I'm wrong, just tell me I'm wrong, okay? So you were on the side of the house, like in the backyard, correct? Okay, and he was in the backyard, and he was on the phone smoking a cigarette? Okay. Did you guys have any words, or did he see you, or no? No? Okay. What's that? What do you mean? What do you mean a little bit?
Said, hey, what are you doing here? I didn't even say anything actually.
Okay, so there's no conversation now. So you didn't say, hey, what are you doing here? Okay, so what made you go to the front yard? You said you went to the front yard to rest?
No, I went to the front of the house instead of going around.
Okay, you were going to go around to the back side? When you first got there, you said you went to the side of the house, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, why did you go to the side of the house? Why didn't you just go to the front door?
I was going to wait for a long time.
Okay, but you decided at some point to go to the side?
Towards the front of the house, yeah.
Okay, so your uncle saw you then there in the backyard, correct? So then you decided to go to the front yard? Okay, then what happened?
The front door. I was laying down for a while.
What's a while?
That's all that happened.
Okay, you were laying down for a while, what happened? Like how long were you laying down for?
I think more than an hour.
More than an hour? You were just lying where, on the grass or where? On the cement? Like on the sidewalk, on the driveway, or what? Part of the driveway? Okay, and so an hour goes by and you do what?
I go to the front of the house.
You go to the front of the house?
I see my mom's car there.
You did not see your mom's car there? Or you did see her car there?
I didn't.
You didn't, okay.
And then I opened the front door, and that's when I saw.
That's when you saw what? The bodies? Is that what you said? Okay. So I'm a little confused, Brandon, because this isn't making sense to me, okay? All right, I know that you've been through an awful lot. I know that you're struggling right now, okay? But in order to make it right, you need to get that off your chest of what really happened, okay? Because I'm going to be honest with you, there's a recording from that gentleman and you, okay? I know it's hard, hon, but you need to get it all off your chest, the truth. All right? What really happened? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
I'm not afraid of anything like I told you. I'm not the one you're dating, so I don't think you're afraid of.
I'm sorry, I know you said you didn't have nothing to be afraid of, but what did you say before that?
I'm not the one that did the murder, so I don't think you're afraid of it.
Well, you were there, and, I mean, obviously you weren't truthful about seeing your uncle there originally. I said, it's obvious that you weren't being truthful about seeing your uncle there originally, and this whole, I fell asleep, hold on, Brennan, this whole I fell asleep isn't gonna cut it. I can't hear you. I don't think that there's any question that you love your uncle. I don't think there's any question at all. But I think that if somebody was going to mess with your livelihood, I said, I don't think that you don't love your uncle. I don't think this is what that is about. Okay? I think that they were trying to mess with your livelihood. Okay? I know that you want to go play baseball. baseball again. I know that that's something you have a passion for. You're obviously great at it. And I think that there were some things in your life that was holding you back. You know, you're 22 years old, you're grown, okay? And a lot of times it's hard for, you know, when you have parents, you know, even though you're 22, they still think of you as a child, you know? And that can be very frustrating. Does that make sense? What's that? You wouldn't know? Okay. Okay. Did you graduate high school? Okay. So you got a diploma or did you get a GED? You got a diploma? Okay. Did you go to college at all? No? You were planning on going next March. Did you enroll? Yes? Okay, where did you enroll at? You were going to or you did? Say again? Your mom did it for you? Okay. What did you want to go to college for? To be a pharmacist? Okay. The day that the officer took you into custody, were you under the influence? No? If you were, would you tell me? Okay. Tell me about the bat. Yes.
Yeah, I have seen a blow on the stove on my belt.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You said you saw blood on the shovel? What did you just say? You saw blood where?
On the sofa.
On the sofa?
In the garage.
And in the garage? Okay.
You know, my hand.
And so what on your hands?
I seen it on my hands when I picked up the baseball bat and left it on there.
Okay, so you saw blood on your hands when you picked up the baseball bat?
I have left over blood yet.
Okay, where was the baseball bat at?
It was in my room.
It was in your room, what? Speak up, I can't hear
I
you.
made a few things from it, and then I left.
What do you mean you made a few things from it?
In my room.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Like I grabbed a baseball bat and was holding it.
Right?
It was just right there, and I was angry.
Right? What did you hit? What wall in your bedroom that you hit? Okay, so hold on a second, Brandon, just so I can understand. When you got at the house, where was the baseball bat at? The baseball bat was in your room. Was it like in the closet, on the floor, on the bed, something different? Do you remember? What's that? Okay, so you picked up a baseball bat, and what color was it? It was black. So what did you end up doing with the baseball bat? Okay. In the room or where? In your bedroom? What else? What other bedroom? Downstairs or the front bedroom upstairs? Is it somebody's room or not? What's in that room that you were swinging the baseball bat at? Huh? No, I mean, what bedroom is it, like in the house? Like, describe the room to me that you were swinging the bat in. What color is the bed piece? What color is the sofa? The sofa's brown, it's upstairs? Okay. And so, at what point did you realize that there was blood on the bat? You didn't? But you said there was blood on your hands, use to wash your hands? What did you use to wash your hands? Spit? And what did you wipe them down with? The seat cover? Like where you were sitting, or the passenger side, or where you were sitting? Okay. What did you do with the bat? Where did you leave it? On the sofa? Upstairs? Downstairs? Upstairs? And it was on top of the sofa? Okay. Are you sure it wasn't by the door, by the garage? Are you sure it wasn't by the door near the garage? Yeah? Yeah, meaning you're sure that it wasn't there, or that it is there? I'm sorry, what? You left it upstairs? Okay, in like plain view? In like plain view?
Yeah.
Okay. Where was the blood at on the bat? From your dad? Okay. How do you know it was from your dad? Well, where did you touch him? Why? Okay, but that's not what you said originally. You told me that you didn't check to see if they were breathing or anything. Right, and you said you didn't touch them. Hold on, Brendan. You said you didn't touch them. You said that you went through their pockets and got keys and cell phones. Yeah, but I asked you specifically if you checked if they were breathing or if they were still alive, and you said no, you didn't because they were dead. I said that I asked you if you checked if they were breathing or if they were still alive, and you told me no, they were dead, and then you later told me that you went into their pockets and took cell phone and keys. You didn't say that you touched them any other way. You see what I'm getting at, Brandon? Okay. That's why your story really isn't flying right now. I'm saying your story isn't flying right now. Something happened, and I think you know more than what you're saying. In fact, I know you know more than what you're saying. Excuse me? Okay. You know what I think, Brendan? I think you were told, you were given an ultimatum. You were told that you either need to leave or you need to go get treatment, and it pissed you off, and you grabbed the bat, and you beat those 3 people. Okay? And maybe your intention was not to kill them. Hold on a second. Maybe your intention was not to kill them, but unfortunately that's what happened. Okay? That makes the most sense. Okay? Not you showing up, seeing your uncle, sleeping for an hour, and then waking up to 3 people dead. That doesn't make sense. But you can't tell me who did this. Excuse me? You're not going to stand here for an accusation? Excuse me? You wouldn't? Never ever? Okay, why should I believe you?
Why did it happen?
I think you made a bad choice. No one's saying that you're a bad person. I think you made a bad choice. Well, I'm not. Your story isn't meshing up. Okay? Huh? Okay. Well, it's your version. It's your version. Right. Okay. It doesn't make sense. And like I told you, there's a recording. Okay? And I'm sure you're well aware that that person was there not only to change locks, but also to install an alarm system to keep you out. That's what it was all about. And I know you know that. Right? Okay. And there was an alarm system too, to keep you out. okay? Because for whatever reason, you know, you're saying that everything seemed perfect with your mom and your dad, and that you didn't have any issues, but still they wanted to go ahead and change the locks according to you. This wasn't the first time, and now they're going to go ahead and install an alarm system. So obviously, the relationship wasn't that great. Are you feeling what I'm saying? Okay, so if it's not great, then why are you telling me that it is?
I think their relationship isn't great, and I say that their hair as much as possible.
Okay, but I wasn't talking about their relationship. I was talking specifically about the relationship between your mom and your dad. Between you and your mom and between you and your dad. That's what I asked you about before, and everything was perfect. So why did they change the locks in the past, Brandon? About verbal altercations that you had? Okay. Well, what? Between you and your mom? Okay, and what would these arguments be about? Have you ever been to ETS before? Have you ever been to ETS before other than that one time? Huh? ETS? You know they took you on... That was the only one time? Okay. So I'm confused. What would you guys argue about? What was the main thing that they would argue with you about? Have you been diagnosed with anything? Have you been diagnosed with anything? I don't understand what your medication's for.
What?
Have you been diagnosed with anything? Okay. So what's the medication for?
Oh, like, one time we were like, she wanted me to leave. And then I got mad at my brother. That's like the only time I can remember where she tried to kick me out. And that I made it probably.
Okay. But I don't understand. So you guys were playing pool and she tried to kick you out? Okay.
Mr. Kurz, Mr. Beecham, let's, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to stop the tape right there. We're at the noon hour, so we'll go ahead and break for lunch. We are on page 66 at line 7. We'll pick up when we come back at 1:30. So remind all of you not to discuss the facts of this case amongst yourselves or with anyone unrelated to the